Hi, I'm George Sanders, President of Goldcliff Resource Corporation. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing silver. So what I'd like to do in this discussion is share some observations over my career of the activity in precious metal cycles, particularly in silver. Look at some ideas about where we might be in the current market, and then finally close with some reasons why Goldcliff is excited to be focused on the silver component of its portfolio and moving forward. So anytime I discuss something that's not directly related to our assets or some general commentaries on markets, I feel it necessary to put out a disclaimer. So I'm going to do that. I'm not offering any investment advice here. I'm not a registered investment advisor, and I don't give investment advice. I've never been a registered commodities broker or a registered futures broker. I've never even traded in those instruments. I haven't been an employee of a refiner or a jeweler or a coin dealer or a scrap metal dealer or anyone else buying and selling precious metals. So bottom line is I have no expertise and no standing. I have, however, spent a 45-year career in and around the financing of exploration companies in the precious metal space. And so clearly there is a very strong correlation between the precious metals price cycle and the availability of risk capital to finance exploration and development for precious metals. And I've been around that space and observed it, and a couple of those observations I would like to share with you. Chances are pretty good, if you've made it a couple minutes into a video about silver, that you already know something about the space, and there are a myriad of other resources available to you that are far more informative and do a deeper dive than I'm going to do. You likely already know the annual supply deficit of silver. You likely already know the growing IT demands and usages for silver, and you particularly know the green demand for silver, especially as it relates to solar panels. So I'm not going to delve into that. I would like to talk a little bit about precious metals priced cycles, and an observation over those cycles over the last 4.5 decades is that usually off a bottom it's the gold price that moves first, and it does so sometimes dramatically, sometimes in a slow creep, but usually it is the first move. And I'm in a public space here, so we have some people passing by. So usually gold moves first. Sometimes silver moves with it. Sometimes it doesn't move right away. As the gold move picks up a little momentum, then silver begins to move, and it begins to move in concert with gold. As that momentum develops, that's when silver plays leapfrog, and its rate of change greatly accelerates over the rate of change of gold, and for the latter part of the cycle, silver will outperform gold, sometimes dramatically so. Second observation, and I think it's very important to what we at Goldcliff are doing and what observers of junior companies exploring and developing silver assets as far as they're concerned, there is a subset of silver investors who display a particularly intense level of enthusiasm, shall we say. I've also heard it, pardon the language, that these folks are just batshit crazy. Regardless, they do have a serious impact on the retail level of the silver market. They will buy out all the low denomination coins in all the silver, all the coin shops in their vicinity, and even within a couple 100-mile radius. they will become particularly enthusiastic for silver stocks, and they will bid those up and bid those even higher. So it's kind of unique to that space, but I have seen that in the past, and it's very interesting and exciting to observe. So I'm recording this on the 21st of August, and today the price of gold opened a little weak, but it firmed up and closed again above 2,500 US dollars per ounce. So we've now had several days of gold punching through that psychological barrier, which is also an all-time high. During those last few days, silver has also moved and done very well, but on a percent basis it has not outperformed, and certainly it is a long way away from its all-time high. So what are some possible implications of the last week in the markets, and what does that mean about where we are in the cycle? A first conclusion that we could draw is that silver is not confirming the gold move, and therefore we're probably going to get another head fake in the precious metals cycle. We could be due for a short-term correction or pullback in this gold move. It could even be dramatic. So that's a viable and possible conclusion. A second conclusion could be, and it's kind of contrary to the first, is that we are in the very early stages of this move. And accordingly, one ought not to expect silver to outperform at this stage, that is coming sometime in the future. That, I would argue, is also a very viable conclusion looking at the cycles and where they are today. A third possibility is that we're in some kind of a new paradigm, new way of looking at things, and old correlations and old relationships aren't applicable anymore, and they don't work anymore. And I have to acknowledge that that also could be a reasonable conclusion. I tend to be of the school that says the more things change, the more they stay the same, but that's for you to decide. Overriding all of that is time frame. And time frame, depending on your time frame, on one's time frame, all three of those scenarios, or certainly the first two, could be true. You know, we could have a short-term pullback in the near future, but 6 months, 9 months, 18 months out, we might be at new all-time highs in both gold and silver. So time frame is particularly important. Okay, so Goldcliff has decided to focus its attention on its silver assets. Why are we excited to do that? Well, the first reason is cost of capital. And those retail investors about which I spoke a few minutes ago, and that enthusiasm, I have seen that in the past come into silver stocks and really accelerate the valuations of those companies. So if a company is putting out new shares for mine building capital or feasibility studies or all of those kinds of big ticket expenses, if a company can do that instead of at X, at 3 times X or 5 times X or 8 times X, then obviously the cost of capital, the premium that the investor is willing to pay, is lower to the company. And we think we're going to head into that environment sometime in the future. So we want to be positioned for that. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is there's less competition in the silver space. Of all the junior companies out there, the subset that are focused on silver primarily might number in the scores. The subset of companies focused on gold or gold copper or copper gold numbers in the hundreds, perhaps up as many as 1,000. So there's less competition. At this stage in the cycle, we still think that there are other assets available in the marketplace from project vendors, from prospectors, that won't be available in the future or won't be available at affordable prices. And the third reason we're excited is the leverage of higher prices. So we deal in Canada for the time being, and we deal in high grade, again, for the time being. That's what's in front of us, that's what's in our portfolio. High grade in Canada. What that means is if the price of silver from Canadian dollar $40 an ounce today were to move to $50 or $60 or $70 sometime in the next year, and we're looking at material in excess of 25 ounces to the ton, that's highly, highly valuable rock. And if a company can establish continuity of that mineralization and enough geometry that it's contained in a sustainable exploitive body, i.e. you can mine it for a few years and your mining techniques are applicable or your mining conditions are decent and you have proximity to a decent milling circuit, and that's not going to cost you too much to haul that rock. That is a high, high value proposition, and we want to be ready for that. So cost of capital, low competition, high leverage to moving silver prices. We think that positions us very well for where silver might go. Thank you for your attention. Look forward to discussing junior markets with you. Look forward to discussing our work at Ainsworth with you in future videos. And with that, we will see you on the next one. Take care.